What is up, everyone? It's Curtis with KTF here, and today we're going to recap Tekken 7 tournaments from May 19th to May 25th, and we're going to talk about upcoming events, so let's jump right into it. There were 10 tournaments that were recorded last week, in which we're going to break down. If you want to jump directly to that tournament, go to the chapters below and just jump straight to it. So first we had the ICF Season 2 Week 8, held on the 19th, 124, so it was slightly more competitors last week compared to the week before, but they didn't raise as much money. Joey Fury came in, as well as FDX kind of upset Cuddlecore. It was really good matches. There was a little bit of online connectivity issues, but FDX came back very strong and actually put up a fight with Joey, in which Joey actually had to change up a couple characters. So really exciting finals. MYK made it in the top. Pit Viper, we've been seeing him having a very strong weeks recently, so hopefully he can keep it up. But if you haven't checked it out, check it out. And then next week, today, should be week 9, or they're doing some team tournament. Next is we have Digital Havocs. Was the same day, much fewer entries, but still a decent amount of money. Oh, it wasn't Puppy Swarm. It was actually held on a different Twitch. Mac had a strong showing. He came in. Recently, he's been talking about how he's always getting second place, but here's an example that he can still make first place. We also have Emily and Alpha coming in strong with their really good showing tournaments, and of course this was part of the open beta to try to capture some of those points, and especially getting over that 32 mark, it means that the top competitors are able to actually get a lot more points based on the open beta rule sets. Big E also held a tournament. They were unable to pull in the numbers that they probably wanted, with only pulling in 17 people, and rather than doing a proportional split, they just said $50, $50, and $25, in which, again, we have FDX, Donnell coming up. Not too familiar with C-Sonic, but he was the one that ended up taking it. A bit of a smaller tournament. If Big E holds tournaments in the future, make sure to check it out, because with these numbers, it's pretty easy it's a lot easier to make it to the top 8 compared to when you have over 100 entries. NYC Tekken, this was a breakout event. They held an amazing event. They raised almost $400 on 21 people. That is a awesome ratio there. And we had a lot of kind of familiar faces with Joey Fury, Mac, Fear, Chenzo, Elcid Vargas, and then Fear. Fear of Silence, I believe, has been doing a really incredible week, which we'll continue seeing. But this event, you got to check it out. I do believe that New York is trying to hold more consistent tournaments, and with this kind of entry to payout ratios, you got to go to it. Paying out top 4, and I really like that the first place is still getting kind of that lion's share rather than more evenly split between like first and second. I'm not a huge fan of that, because you want a bigger emphasis on actually winning the tournament. And you can check out all that action on NYC Furby. Hungry for Battle, this was another event that came up on the open beta test. Just under 30, and this was because they didn't raise a lot of money, which is a little shocking, because the event had been known, I thought, for almost 2 weeks. But this is one of the worst payout ratios, in which it's less than $1 per entry, and that's why it was kind of a winner take all. But we still have Alpha, Elcid Vargas, L Train, Locomotive, and Kagari all making it up there. Hopefully they can just figure out how to raise more funding, especially with the Matcherino of being that small. What I think is they just were relying on community outreach, and they just didn't get it. They need to have people more donate strictly to the cause, as we're going to see in a couple other tournaments that were able to raise a lot of money for the competitors. We had the Iron Sherpa. I think last week Iron Sherpa took a break or something else, but they this is an ongoing tournament series in which you're accumulating points very similar to the online beta, except this has a $1,000 grand final pot prize that's going to be happening in July. And we had a lot of the same faces: Jumanji, El Negro, Shinblade, finally making it up to top 8. We haven't seen him too much. Silence usually makes it usually in the top 7. And FDX had a less than stellar performance, but is still making top 8 performances. FDX has accumulated tons of points, not only in the open beta, but in all online tournaments. But with only having 16 entries, this is kind of what you would expect with a point-based kind of league system, that like you have a spike and then it tapers off, just based on the reward structure of the amount of time put in versus what you potentially would receive as funding. However, I still like the idea of it. I just wish that there was some consistent reward structure for each individual week, but say la vie. And then we had the EQNX Dojo Online, clearly held by Team EQNX. Had the normal EQNX caster crew, which they went on. I know that early on they were having some technical difficulties, but kind of fixed that up with nearly 60 people. So this was kind of the second largest tournament this week. They did have a match Reno, but there was no instruction of how the payout structure was happening. And they said, oh, you know, the winner's going to win a online beta and a t-shirt and plus a pop prize, but never on Match Reno or even during stream did they ever mention it. And I reached out to some of the competitors of, you know, did you get paid? And nobody responded. So hopefully they actually paid people. If not, they just kept the money. So hopefully it's not that, but based on the reporting practices, this was the only tournament that I've reported on for the past month that hasn't given out a payout structure. But anyway, Joe Crush was able to take that over Mac, and then Joe Fury was taking 3rd place, and El Negro, of course, got there. Chenzo's making another top 8, and then Kaiser TV, I've kind of evidently used his name fluidly there, is making top 8. So all very strong showings, and it was a good tournament. Despite the technical difficulties at the beginning, but that was completely out of their control of what was going on. It was unsure. I would expect when we leave online beta, EQNX is probably going to hold a monthly. That would be my best guess, but at this time that there's no further word of them actually hosting a tournament. We also had the return of the Ronin Rumble, in which this only had about 22 people. They raised over $300, which is really great, and they had that 70-20-10 compared to what more standard is the 60-30-10. I probably would prefer the 60-30, but this is also very good. And we had again FDX, El Negro, and Ho has been coming up. He's been one of the players that actually got points for the online beta test. It has another really good kind of payout ratio to entry levels. So if you qualify to register for this online, you need to get more involved in it, because not only would the entry levels rise up, but also we can increase the pot bonuses there. IronMANE Weekly, completely fell off my radar last week, so I apologize for that, but they had a really great tournament, which is all held by Max Ninja 15. They had the standard 60-30-10 split. They started out only with, I think, a $75 pot, which was all just Max Ninja just putting up straight money, and then through contributors was able to get that up to 115. He did not have Master Reno. What I really liked is that he was able to get this as an online beta test, as well as his numbers usually sat around 8-10. So we essentially more than doubled his average rate. I just hope that these numbers stay consistent with the entries, since it really was a very smooth event, especially for kind of just him running it by himself. It ran very smoothly. FDX coming up. Shake probably had the best run, had really exciting matches and did very well. Mac making again in top 8, and we have another Shinblade as well as Pit Viper and Armaku. all super solid matches, and especially the top 8 was just killers nonstop. So definitely check out IronMANE. I think he's already booked week 4. So if you haven't signed up, it happens on Mondays, I believe, and you need to kind of support it. I don't think it's region locked in any way, but of course, being online, you need to have a minimum bit rate or downtime to register. Which then brings us to another fighting games workshop, which just finished last night. This used to be Tech, but Tech is still working on moving to Fridays, and they're supporting our local games workshop there in, I believe, Schaumburg, Illinois. In which there was a standard pot of $100. There was community matcherino, so there should be 100 plus. I forget how much they were able to raise. I want to say it was 80 something dollars. So the pot bonus was about $180. That went out with that kind of breakdown distribution of payout. Shadow 20 came back from losers bracket to beat Fear of Silence. Jumanji had a really great showing. Be Rich had an incredible run. He was the one that I believe originally sent Shadows to the losers bracket, and Armaku and Mac, of course, showing up in the top 8. Just again, really good showings. Probably of all the recent weeks of TriTac or Games Workshop holding this was the most stacked bracket, and all the games are incredible to watch. Especially the finals of Shadow coming back, because they were all super close matches, down to the wire. So this time we ranked the tournaments slightly different. Rather than just giving the fixed amount, we did the pot bonus divided by the amount of entries, and that's how they ranked. And as we pointed out, New York City had the best ratio for the amount of entries versus pot, followed by Ronin Rumble, ICFC, and then IronMANE. Those were kind of the top 4, and then it breaks down. EQNX, we're assuming that they did actually pay out their players, or they would drop down to kind of last place there. But really good. And I did already talk about the Fighting Games Workshop. They raised about 180, so that one will have been increased as well. I don't think they would crack. They may get to 5th or 6th place with that payout ratio. If you're looking at entering in tournaments, looking at that financial gain, these are the tournaments that you should highlight of trying to enter in, as they're kind of the best payout ratio for the people. Running the expected value of you actually trying to win or trying to get into the pot bonus is a whole separate calculation, but this is to help a little bit with that decision making. And so now the dojo kind of online run is actually concluding today when this video is posted, but these are the current ratings. And so 3 players, I have 2 numbers, so FDX, Shadow, and Mac. There we go. Have 2 numbers. So the online beta of how they are accumulating points is they only count the top 4 showings that you had in tournament runs. So even though FDX accumulated 216 points, if you just look at his top 4, he's 185. That's kind of where that split is. So the official listing is 185 for FDX, 130 for Shadow, and 125 for Mac. But even with that taken in consideration, 0 ranks have changed. So I don't know, whatever. It doesn't really, all it does is decentivize players to play in tournaments once they've had a showing in tournament, which is kind of the wrong incentive to have, because it makes comeback factors even more difficult as the pool of tournament players slowly decreases throughout the season. If anything, there should be some sort of decay or inflation with the amount of points to keep incentivization to register into tournaments. So rather than a max of 4, there should be essentially a minimum of 4 tournaments that you should be able to participate and make points on. Kind of a weird system. It's not my favorite, but it's what they're deciding to go through. It just doesn't incentivize the right things from a theoretical level. But here's the current listings. From my understanding, from my understanding, I was doing research even last night of this and looking for over an hour. I didn't see anything of what they were doing with this other than, okay, here are the standings. I didn't see a finalized tournament. I didn't see additional rewards and anything else. And so unless it was community funding, which then gave back to the players for individual tournaments, that these points, other than a pat on the back and a couple t-shirts, aren't really worth anything. And I know it's a beta, so they were trying out a lot of things, but it just seems a little shafty to the players that put in the time, like FDX, like what is his grand prize? So that's a minor criticism. I was really hoping that they were going to do something about, okay, now we're going to take the top 8 and we're going to pair them up for kind of a finals tournament to showcase those players, but it may not ever happen. And so what was the point? But that's getting to a theoretical level of why we have point-based systems and actually ranks of using these point metrics, but let's move on. So upcoming events, the online dojo is kind of ending today. It wasn't even listed that week 9 of ICFC was counted, and from my understanding, only one host once per month is going to be able to hold an event. It's unclear if that is going to remain the same once we open outside of beta or what other kind of testing is going to be, but essentially the online beta is over. You can look at the rankings, which we just talked about. What's also coming up is this Friday is Iron Fist Friday. Unfortunately, this is the last one. They kept trying to hold the event and then it would drop for whatever reason, and then a lot of the hosts on Twitter were talking about how due to personal things or whatever, they're going to stop doing it. It was unclear if it was a burnout or somebody else was taking over or whatever. But the Iron Fist Friday, this should be the last kind of final Iron Fist Friday, at least for a while. And you can check all that action on Trace Complete with the challenge link below to sign up for it. We also have Ladies Night that's occurring this weekend for Season 2 on NYC Furby. This should be a ladies only invitational. It's a good fun event, and I actually forget who the casters are this time, but they should have 3 casters going through it all, and it's just a fun event. The only unfortunate thing is that it's going to coincide with the Look Alive event, which I think today or tomorrow we're going to get a lot more information of the schedule, and from what it sounded like, he's extending the schedule with a lot of pre-recorded things, and hopefully we're going to hear about if there's going to be a tournament or invitational or whatever. But this is the thing you need to have on your calendar. I know I've talked about it for over a month now, ever since it was first announced, but this is what's going to be on the background all weekend when I'm doing family stuff. And hopefully they're going to have good merch and all that other stuff to support those content creators and tournament organizers that are generally part of Combo Breaker. Black and Blue, I think we talked about this last time, that's starting up in Jacksonville. This is an on-site tournament, and kind of going back to that, there are tournament fees, not rather than just free entry to locations, and they're looking at a 50, 30, 20. Not too bad, so they're just incentivizing if you make money, you're going to make decent money. Again, my personal thing is I would never like to go under that 50% mark for first place. So I like where this is going. They already have a $200 pop bonus attached to it, and then based on the amount of people that sign up, obviously that's going to go up. So if you're in the Jacksonville area, check out the event. It should be really good. I'm very far away, so I won't be there. And then again, Secret Garden Offline is happening in Georgia. We're going to just kind of keep briefly mentioning that as it's coming up, but that's all we have for this week. So really exciting that the online dojo is finalizing. We have some announcements officially from Namco of that they're planning an online league, which is probably going to follow a very similar structure to the online beta. We'll get a little bit more information hopefully next week to report on, but until then, check out the tournaments, keep on the grind, and then we'll see you guys next time.